Welcome to the Nothing Finer podcast. I'm your host, Rick Beach, along with Austin Allen.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Hey, this week we got Frank Watts, Georgia linebacker from 1993 to 1995. Frank, what's going on?
What's going on? Nice to be on your guys' show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, I mean, we appreciate you coming in here. And you was talking about you was there in 93, 95. We talked a little bit before we got rolling. That wasn't the proudest time of Georgia Bulldog fans, the tough era right there.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it's my favorite era of Georgia football because that's when I first fell in love with Georgia, was the early 90s, 93, and some of the players that you were fortunate enough to play with. So I'd really like to hear some of the stories and some of your angle on the things. And right off the bat, of course, I want to talk about the Terrell Davis and Ray Goff history.
Okay.
And you just kind of go into that a little bit.
Well, when I got to Georgia, Terrell was he was a junior, which I was as well, coming from junior college. So it took me a year to get to know a lot of those guys, and I got to know Terrell. We became really good friends, and he was my next door neighbor, so to speak, at UGA when there was still McWhorter Hall. And Terrell was, he was a guy that pretty much stayed to himself. He was a hard worker now, and he came to work every day. But his problems were that he couldn't stay healthy at Georgia, and he turned out to be one of the greatest running backs in the National Football League. But it took him a while to really find his way at UGA. He had a few solid games. He, wasn't a guy that. If you asked a lot of kids today who was Terrell Davis, they wouldn't know. He is strictly known by what he did, what he's done in the National Football League. But when he was healthy, he was one of the toughest running backs that I've ever had a chance to go against in college football.
He's a horse.
He was.
Oh, yeah.
We had a few horses back then. Frank Harvey was a horse, and, that was my first time actually seeing a running back that was 6'1", 6'2", 240 pounds.
Yeah.
And, it kind of puts you in awe when you see something like that, because junior college and high school, you don't go against grown men like that often.
You don't see something that big moving that fast.
No.
Now, you're from Columbus. You went to Baker?
I did. I was the last graduating class of Baker High School.
Wow.
That's fun. And
That's
then,
awesome.
So you went to Georgia military for a season and played up there?
I did. I didn't do all the things that I should have coming out of high school. You don't think about going to college where I came from. Somebody actually told me, hey, you got an opportunity to go to school and get a free education if you do the right things in high school. And it didn't click for me until my junior year, and that's when I really started to buckle down. But, I could not, get over the hump or the SAT. So I went the hard route, and it made me a better man. And if I had a chance to do it all over again, I'd do it the same way.
Were you recruited by Georgia coming out of high school, or was that strictly GMC?
No, I was recruited by some of the top colleges in America. I was recruited by Florida. I was recruited by Memphis State. I was recruited by LSU. So, I was if you have to rate me back then like they do now, I probably was a 4-star linebacker coming out of high school.
Yeah.
Was there when you got to GMC, did you consider going anywhere else? Or what made you say, I'm going to go to Georgia, when they had Ray Goff? And you mentioned Florida, they had Steve Spurrier. And we know what they were doing in 93.
Well, it basically came down to this. I came this close to going to Florida. I really did. And Coach Glenn Wolf was the head coach at GMC at that time. And he went and he told Coach Goff, Coach Goff, them just assumed, they knew I was going to come, and, they didn't recruit me hard like they were supposed to. So they just assumed I was going to come, and Florida came in and, made things sound really well for me, put me in different spots because we basically played the same defense they played. Yeah. And Coach Reeves was the outside linebackers coach back then at Florida. And I was that close to going to Florida. But, I had a girlfriend, I had a kid, and I had to really put things in perspective. And so I chose UGA. And, I like I said, I loved everything about my time at Georgia. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
And so let everybody know what now it's a 3-4 everything, but back then everything was a 4-3 defense. Which linebacker position did you play? Inside, outside, a little?
I played outside, and I mostly stood up. And depending on what packages we ran, basically a lot of third down situations, I played a lot with my hand down. When I was at GMC, I was about 215, 220. Then I could cover guys. And so, when I got to Georgia was short on defensive ends, and a lot of guys were getting hurt. And Coach Goff came to me and asked me, did I mind switching positions? You don't really think about it when a head coach comes to you and asks you about changing positions.
Yeah.
If you want to get on the field, you're going to do what's best for you. So what I did, I had to gain about 30, 35 pounds to play that position, and because in SEC you play against some grown men at right and left tackle.
Oh yeah.
But that solid year that I had off gave me an opportunity to put on some weight,
right,
and get my education gear.
So if besides the problems that Florida gives you, back then with Spurrier with the fun and gun and stuff, what was the team that gave y'all the hardest time to deal with on defense? What kind of scheme do they run and things like that?
Man, my junior and senior year, the two schools that were tough were South Carolina, believe it or not.
Yeah, okay.
With Tally was a quarterback, and Florida, of course. The thing that made Florida so difficult to match up with back then was nobody really knew how to cover four wides.
Yeah.
And, you could go over it and practice and try to practice that type of speed against Riedel, Anthony, and those guys, but you couldn't simulate that type of
yeah. It was like a totally new concept at that time,
It was a total different concept,
Yeah.
and they were a tough team to stop.
Right.
And South Carolina was they were not a four wide fun and gun type of team, but they had some top running backs back then.
Oh yeah.
And, they were more of a power lead type team back then, and they were tough. They were tough as well.
Right. And so when you I always believe, and I talked with Rick about this before, is when an offense kind of new system comes up and things are rolling, kind of like LSU this year, how just things get out of hand and these new offenses come up and things get crazy. Do you think, because I feel like after a couple of years of having that on film, that defenses kind of catch up, it forces defenses to grow and change. And I think Kirby's pretty good at that. But, what do you think about that? Do you think when a certain when the Veer came out, it took years for people to catch up with what Bobby Bowden was doing? Do you think that's kind of a valid thing, that defenses can kind of step their game up and it's kind of you raise this high, then we, chase each other? It
is, but at the same time, what makes it difficult, especially a team like LSU, you had a guy and Burroughs, a guy that came in and fitted that system.
Right.
It took them a few years to actually find a guy to come in and do what they wanted to do. And it takes a young coach. I can't remember the young offensive coach that came in.
Brady
that came in and helped them along the way. So when you got the right system and the right guy to come in, and finally get you guys over the hump, it's tough to stop. I don't care how good you are on defense. Georgia played outstanding defense. And Burroughs made some plays against them in the SEC championship game that, you got the guy tackled and he spins out and throw a 40-yard pass downfield. You can't
you can't stop that.
So you can't stop that type of stuff. So, Georgia had the right scheme, but LSU just made all the plays.
Yeah, totally. Watching that game, it seemed like, they was just bending us to our will. Even, it didn't matter what Kirby and Lanning tried to do. If we tried to overload this side or that side, they could there's so many moving parts out there that they could just bend you around and kind of, just give you the rope-a-dope a little bit.
And they kind of, this team kind of reminds you a little bit of Florida.
Totally,
Four
absolutely.
wides, great running system. So, you were pretty much at their wheel. Because, they had the great quarterback. They had two monsters at running back, and then you had all of those wide receivers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't care how great a defense you got. If you got 4 skilled guys that can be the number 1 guy on any team,
Right.
You got 4 of them. It's going to be tough.
That team was something else this year, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but I mean, with LSU, you want to, looking at the Florida in the past, but Florida was doing it every year.
yeah.
Yeah.
Where
consistent.
LSU's not, I mean, Burrow had his 1 year, Brady left. So now you're looking, they're going to be really.
They're going to have to find a way to evolve again
Right.
or devolve back into what they were and try and, rekindle that.
But what you're kind of talking about with the offenses doing something and defense adjust. Think about what Bama did with Kirby on staff. They kind of went on their run based on their defense.
Right.
And until Dabo come in with Deshaun Watson, and that kind of flipped it back to an offensive thing right now.
Yeah.
And for Georgia, it's on them to try to flip it back to the defense.
Yeah,
exactly.
We know Georgia's going to have a tough defense this year. It's going to be just as good as last year, if not better.
Yeah.
But, they got to have some kind of pulse on offense, whether they didn't have last year.
Well, I'm excited. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what this offense is going to look like with Jamie Newman or whoever the case may be back there. I think Jamie, people are saying, we don't know what this guy's going to be. He's played in the ACC, but that's one position that really doesn't matter what conference you're playing. I mean, everybody is saying that this guy is top 5 already in the SEC as one of the best quarterbacks. So I'm looking forward to see.
I think they're giving him 15-1 Heisman odds right now.
Yeah,
so,
I
mean, look at the talent he's going to have this year compared to what he had at Wake Forest right off the bat.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And, with the running backs that we have and the receivers and Pickens and some of those young freshmen that are going to be there, I'm excited to see. This offense has potential to be very explosive.
And what I like the most is it's not getting the hype because Florida's still kind of stealing some of the hype. And this offense, most people are expecting it not to be what, I kind of feel like it has the potential to be really elite. Yeah. And, it's kind of flying under the radar, which we know quick. Yeah. It's Virginia, East Tennessee, then we play Alabama. So we'll know.
Oh, yeah.
And if it, goes into Tuscaloosa and this offense shows out, the whole world's going to know real quick how good it could be.
I mean, it's like, I'm right there as well. I'm like, everybody's in that I don't know mode right now.
Yeah.
That's why everybody's giving Florida that little bump over Georgia because you don't know what you got with Jamie Newman. And, we did lose 4 linemen. So, but those young guys played well in the Sugar Bowl. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wait and see thing for me. I mean, I honestly think, as being a true dog fan, I really think that Georgia, this is the year I think we get over the hump. Now it's up to the guys to go out there and make all the plays and do it. But I think this could be a very special year for Georgia.
Well, just what encourages me is that Kirby doesn't let anything get stale. When he feels like something's not working, then he's not afraid to just throw it all out the window and try something new, which kind of seems like, we sat in that studio last summer and we was talking about LSU because Orgeron said, we're going to turn into spread. We're going to do all this. And we was like, yeah, right. We'll see it when we believe it, and then we seen it. So doesn't it kind of feel like Kirby's kind of setting us up for the same kind of thing? People are saying Georgia's still going to do this and be what they are. But, Kirby could be working up some kind of curveball here.
He is. I mean, don't let Kirby fool you. I think, Jamie Newman is going to bring a different dimension that we've not seen since Shockley.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is the type of year I think that we could have. I mean, you're talking about a quarterback that's 6'4", 235 pounds.
Yeah.
That can run it and throw it.
Throws it deep, not just.
He loves throwing it deep is what they're saying.
So. I'm excited. I'm just ready for this season to get started.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's going to be a special year.
Totally.
And, of course, right now all that's going on with the coronavirus stuff, we have shut down and spring practice getting postponed, which I think is probably going to get canceled. I'm not expecting it to get, but in a way, and you hate trying to look for anything positive coming out of what's going on in this country right now with the coronavirus, but maybe for Kirby's sake, nobody's going to see Jamie Newman this spring. There is going to be no G-Day. Yeah. So, and I think Kirby likes that. He's not saying what kind of offense. He's just kind of letting it go. And he likes the secretive life. You could tell that's the way he is. That's the way Nick Saban was. So you can see, like, it kind of plays into his hand saying, no G-Day's fine with him because we don't want people to see Jamie Newman out there or Carson Beck for that matter.
And I agree with you on that. I mean, the only thing that kind of disappoint me about the whole thing with the coronavirus. I think as a nation we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm kind of disappointed that our girls are not going to get a chance to play softball right now.
Yeah, that's what bothers me.
That what bothers me more than-
Rick was just looking at a post earlier saying they were suspending all activities.
Yeah,
and
my
stuff,
daughter and Frank's daughter play on the same softball team, and they got the day before opening day. They pulled the trigger. We're out till the beginning of April, and I get it. I understand it 100%. And it's just frustrating, as you know, on a personal level. But that shows how it hits.
Yeah,
it hits at the NBA all the way down to Little League softball.
Exactly.
And we feel it just as if not worse, because we get more emotionally attached to it. But you got to do what you got to do, and if you go and find a silver lining as a Georgia fan, it's easy to say this is going to be it. Now I talked to Austin last night, and Frank, we're going to ask for yours too.
Okay.
If you got on quarantine for 14 days, you can only watch 3 Georgia games. Austin, which 3 are you going to watch?
Well, the best of the best that I would watch is the 07 blackout game at Auburn, or not at Auburn, in Athens. But I love that game. I love 2007. It was like the most fun I had. I mean, I was like 14 at the time, so it really like molded me. Yeah. It was like the most fun I had watching football up until that point in my life. So that game was amazing. And them dancing on the sidelines, I loved all that.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to go 17 Rose Bowl just because it's an obvious classic. Yeah. I mean, how can you not? The hair stand up on your neck when you watch that game, But then back to 07, I'd have to go 07 Florida game, touchdown party.
Yeah.
In the end zone. I love that.
I mean, you looking and, it's going to be funny. When I thought about my 3, and only one of them was really a postseason game like yours, I looked, I'd probably have to go first. It'd have to looking at the SEC championship playing Auburn. That was fun. That whole season was magical.
That was fun.
And you could pick a lot of games that year. The Notre Dame game, you say in the Rose Bowl. But to me, that SEC, because that's when, we went to the games that year, and I was going to the games, and I never knew we were a national championship caliber team. I heard it, and I never knew it because we were watching the games. I wasn't watching on TV, and I was in it, being invested that way. And then it hit me, and it's like the emotions you feel of, holy crap, we're really legitimately a national championship. And I get chills now thinking about sitting in that stadium with that, when DeAndre Swift had that long run.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, okay, we're going to the.
It's happening. It's actually happening.
And that's a feeling emotionally I'll never get, over it. Then, number 2, I go back to games when Jim Donnan was there, the 2000 Tennessee game. I ain't beat him in, I believe it was 8 years. And, that day I was with your uncle spending all day. And we're in high school, and just that feeling of we beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
And, you're talking about being 14. That's when you start getting that that passion.
It impacts you, man.
Yeah, when you're a kid, you kind of watch them, but you ain't emotionally.
Right.
When you start hitting 13, 14, then my favorite game of all time, 1997, Georgia, Florida, when Robert Edwards just went crazy. We beat them, I think it's 37-17 or something.
Yeah.
And what I remember most was I was on restriction for my parents. I was like 13 years old, and they went somewhere, and I snuck in their bedroom and watched that game on CBS. And then I fixed the bed just right and act like I didn't watch nothing. And I couldn't tell my dad how excited I was.
You couldn't even share the excitement.
Anytime I see that, I think if I had to watch a game over and over, that'd be the 3 games.
Oh, yeah.
Frank, you had 30 seconds. It just felt like to rack your brain. What you going to say?
My first one would be the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, against the Rose Bowl.
Right.
Where we came back in dramatic fashion and won that game. The reason I say that one is one of my favorite ones because I went worldwide. I forgot what you call it.
You went viral?
I went viral.
Oh, did you? Did you?
My wife had video me celebrating everything, and I got over like maybe 800,000 views. My second one would be 1995, Robert Edwards, when he scored 4 touchdowns against South Carolina.
Wow,
that was one of the best games that I've seen, and had a chance to. I played in that game, so that was special. Me seeing him run for those 4 touchdowns. Yeah. And, of course, my favorite game was the first game that I ever got a chance to play in, was also in 94 when Coach Goff told me to go in. Jones, last name was Jones. T. Jones got hurt. And he called me in, Frank, go in. And the first play that I got in, I got a sack on Tannehill.
Wow.
Came back the next series, got another sack. We came back in dramatic fashion in that game, and we won 21-14,
Wow.
something like that.
Yeah.
And I had two and a half sacks that game.
Right.
So that was my first college game that I really made an impact for UGA, and that game will always be special.
Now, I want to ask you about
1994.
1994, the 20-game win streak Auburn had, and we rolled into
Yeah.
What was that feeling like? I mean, it was obviously 94 wasn't a great year for Georgia football record-wise, but to get that, what was the feeling like going into that game? I mean,
That you talking about the game that we tied?
yeah, the 23-23 tie.
That was a tough. We had a seniors meeting only that night. Terrell Davis that was the first game that he was actually the healthiest I've ever seen. And he got up and spoke that night, and he lit a fire up on us that night, and guys were really emotionally ready to play, and. He came out and probably had one of the greatest games he's ever had at UGA that game. And our defense played lights out that day. And to go into that game and tie, we felt like we won the game, even though it was a tie.
Yeah.
To go in and do that against that team, because they were stacked that year. Chris Schelling, guy I played with in high school, played safety for them. So they had a tremendous team. Stephen Davis was their running back. Huge running back. He was tough to bring down, but we came into that game and we felt like that we could compete with them. If we can keep the game close, we had a chance of winning that game.
Right. Don't you love that feeling of what football does? You just the David could always slay Goliath. I mean, doesn't that always? It just takes a couple words, and
It does.
yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but that's what's so great about football, especially when you get these rivalry games. Auburn, they was on probation at 13-0 and nowhere to go in 93, and they won the first 7 games of 94.
Yeah.
And here come Georgia. I believe we had a losing record or right at 500 at the time.
But I'm going to tell you, those 2 years, 93, 94, and also 95, we had a lot of guys that, especially my senior year, we had a lot of guys that got hurt. Robert Edwards broke his foot. We were going to beat Tennessee that game.
Yeah.
And he broke his foot in the first half. Then we lose Mike Bobo against Ole Miss. So when we lose our running back, we lose our quarterback, and our defense was solid that year. I think our defense was one of the better defenses in the conference that year. But, it was one of those years where nothing was going right for us, especially as far as injury-wise.
I mean, when you lose Bobo, you lost your best wide receiver because now we move Hines over to the quarterback.
And we went with Brian Smith before we went with Bobo. Not knocking Brian Smith. Brian Smith was one of my good friends at Georgia, but to go from Mike Bobo to Brian Smith, that was tough.
Right.
You can see it in guys' heads. Especially we went into Clemson, Death Valley. Believe it or not, we beat Clemson that year.
Yeah.
With Brian Smith as our quarterback. So he was able to get the job done. But in the bigger games, we just didn't have enough offense.
Right.
Especially against Alabama when we went to Tuscaloosa that year.
Was that the comeback when we had a little bit of the lead and they came back on us?
They came back on. Edgar was the quarterback then.
Yeah.
And that was my first year getting a taste of big-time football. But, it was tough, especially when you lose games like that, when you feel like
you had them, let them off the hook.
It deflates you, yeah. And I feel like 2019 was kind of a mirror image of that, man. And it was such a minute case of bad breaks, missed opportunities on offense, and me and Rick talked about it all season, is how it felt like we were this far away from the offense doing what it needed to do, but it just never could,
I think, that we were put in some bad situations as far as I would never not coach Kirby or any of his offensive staff.
Right.
But there was just certain situations where, if we'd have done this or we'd have done that,
right,
things would have been different. So
yeah, we spoke about it, just the way kind of they were scheming, kind of the way they were going about the things that Georgia's good at and the things we do, and it seemed like the way we were approaching it just seemed kind of stale,
Yeah.
So
guys harped about guys, the receivers that we had couldn't get off a man.
Right.
I don't think that was the case.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
I just think that. A lot of the young guys just weren't. I couldn't put a finger on it. Guys just. I don't know if it what we were running or what they were calling trying to keep everything simplistic.
Right.
But it made it difficult for some of our better receivers to get open. And,
you could tell there was a loss of.
I think it was a lack of confidence.
There was the comfortability level wasn't there between Jake and the receivers and vice versa. It just seemed like they was just so close to being on the same page, but just that far away.
And I will kind of just a little bit put that on the coaches.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't think Fromm really got that one-on-one coaching that he did years past. And that kind of hurt. I think because they felt like, hey, Kirby is the guy that, he don't need that hands-on coaching that he got the last couple of years, and it kind of showed.
Yeah. Yeah, they just kind of let him ride a little bit, and I think they should have, not rode him, but just give him the attention and care that he needed,
And that hurt us.
Yeah.
Now you look at 2018. If we went 8-4, how ecstatic would we have been? Like,
right. It'd be totally.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Where as bad as it was a bad season on offense.
Yeah.
For any team, and if our defense hadn't have been just absolutely elite,
we could have dropped a few more games.
It would have been a big struggle. What do you remember about your senior year with Kirby coming in there?
Kirby was a sophomore when I was a senior, and Kirby, he was a good guy. I didn't actually do a lot of communicating with Kirby. Kirby, didn't hang out with the guys that much, and but I do know that he was a hard worker, and he would come up and strike you, and he played behind Cord Johnson. So he didn't start my senior year. So he came on after that, after I left, and became one heck of a football player for UGA.
Yeah.
Now you were with Muschamp on some of them teams, right? So what kind of guy was Muschamp compared to Kirby? Because he seems like he likes to cut up a little bit more.
The same way Muschamp coaches.
Yeah.
Same way
Yeah. Intense. Yeah.
Always.
I can see that. Definitely.
Who was the defensive coordinator when you was playing at UGA?
What name? We had three of them. We went from
Strong. Was he there when you was there?
No.
Okay.
We went from Campbell to Swamp Fox, which, I love Coach Campbell, but he came in with this pro-style mentality.
Right.
We didn't hit. We didn't do any. Everything was stud tempo. That's what he called it. And it showed during games.
Right.
Because everything was stud tempo. We went tackling was what the crap. And then after he left, we got Joe Kynes. Joe Kynes came in and just revamped the whole defense. He's probably one of the best defensive coordinators that we had when I was there. But before him and Campbell was Enziman was offensive coordinator, but Campbell, man, I'm drawing a blank of defensive coordinators that we had. But I definitely know that Joe Kynes was probably the best one out of all the three that we had. He was a raw guy, get in your face. If you're not doing it this way, he's going to let you know about it.
Yeah, I've heard Kirby mention, what Joe Kynes meant to him.
He also coached a couple of years at Alabama after he left Georgia. So
that's back then. You look in the '90s with Georgia and Alabama there in the mid '90s. A lot has changed since then.
Yeah.
Back then it looked like Florida's never going to lose anything ever again.
Yeah.
And speaking of Florida, you got we don't want to talk about these two games, but they're unique, and you got to play in Gainesville and at Sanford Stadium against the Gators.
Well, we did get to take a lot of pictures in Gainesville.
How bad y'all hate Spurrier? Just as a player, did y'all just hate that man?
We hated him. I did.
I hate him now. No.
And I don't really hate anybody.
Right.
But when a coach knows that he can do just about anything on you or against you, and he just rubs it in.
Oh, yeah.
For him to hate us as that much because, Georgia cost him the Heisman or
National
championship
when
he's playing, he doesn't mind letting people know about it. And in those two games, we got shut out both games. We got beat 50-something in Gainesville, and they beat us 52 to nothing in Athens. He said, nobody's never scored 50 points in Sanford Stadium. He decided to score 50 on us.
52-0.
He ran a flea flicker up 40. I think they had 42 or 45.
Yeah.
52-0 sounds like when I was in Pee Wee, Clubview would go play Edgewood. We get blasted 52-0, ran out of the park.
Now, you think that goes with Kirby now with Florida? You think he still holds that grudge kind of? Because on that flea flicker, they hit that pass on Kirby.
Yeah.
In Sanford Stadium.
Yeah, on Kirby. I've seen that tape. So you got to think. You think he holds that grudge against Florida
Because it seems he really has a different level of intensity and a different feeling after that game.
I think he does. I think, any coach, any player, always going to have some type of animosity towards Florida. That's just our rival. I mean,
Right.
It's not that, you hate that person that plays for Florida. You just
hate that orange and blue.
You just hate that orange and blue.
Right.
You just don't want to lose to them. And every chance you get an opportunity to just stick that fork in them, that's what Kirby's doing. And I hope we continue to do it.
Oh, it's the last 3 years have been really
It's
fun.
been really good.
Because it's been dominant. I mean, we've gone down there and just absolutely dominated them.
Now, with all that talk, what do you, recently they've been talking about the contract in Jacksonville ending and maybe renegotiations or maybe going back to a home and home. Would you like to see Georgia go play in the Swamp again now?
I mean, I'm all for tradition.
Right.
And I like tradition, but at the same time, to have a home and home game against that team, I'm talking about recruiting now.
Right. That's a big deal.
So that's a big deal. And I think it would benefit both schools if they were to play that game home and home.
Yeah. To me, I just want blood. I want to go into the Swamp and just,
Yeah, because the Swamp, they never really have a home field advantage.
Right.
I mean,
it's kind of a different atmosphere. Yeah.
And I want us to have the opportunity to repay what they did.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure Kirby won't be.
I'm sure he's preaching for the same thing right now.
What do you think about that Georgia defense they have now?
Man, I'm excited to see these young guys play. I mean, Richard LeCount is going to lead, to me, probably one of the best defenses Georgia had. Now, that junkyard defense back in the 80s was great. The reason I say they were great, they're the only team that won a national title.
Right.
That team last year was special, but I really think this team has a chance to be real special. And everything is going to boil down to how successful we can put some points on the board on offense. If I think we can do well on offense, we have a chance to duplicate what LSU did last year, I think.
Who are you looking forward to seeing on the defense this year? Whether it be Trevon Walker, Nolan Smith, who are you looking?
Believe it or not, I'm excited to see the big nose tackle play Davis.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to see that kid get after the ball. I mean, he really is the center. I mean, it's the anchor of that defensive line, and I'm excited to see him play.
He eats up some space, don't he?
He does.
But that's his job. I mean,
he anytime you come around him, he's gonna grab two of you. So.
I can't wait to see. I think Nolan Smith he's going to have his.
Oh, yeah.
And, we talked last week with Trevon Walker. But these guys are such freaks now. I mean, it used to be, you see, a kid like Trevon Walker would be the only guy in the league.
Right.
Yeah. And now it seems like every team has a 6'5", 4'5", 40 guy that's just.
Well, look at South Carolina had Javon Kinlaw last year. I mean, he gave us absolute fits. I mean, that kid's a freak of nature, man.
Yeah, we pretty much put him in the first round.
Yeah, I mean.
Absolutely.
And that's what, all the DBs Georgia got. I still like watching them. Defensive ends, defensive tackles.
Yeah.
That's where the game.
Everybody those the big nasties. It's fun.
Yeah, that's what you like to watch. DBs, they fly around and all.
Win titles, it starts in that front seven.
It always will.
Care how great you are in the back end. If your front seven is not great, you're going to struggle a whole year.
Yeah, and then you flip on the offense. You look at that offensive line. Why Georgia's recruiting so hard is Kirby knows if you're going to play an elite defense, that's where they're going to be elite. We saw Clemson a couple of years ago with their defensive linemen. And then last year LSU was kind of that blip because they were carried by that offense. Their defense wasn't carrying them nowhere.
Right,
but it was just a blip. I don't think
the stars align, man. It's hard
Brennan ain't going to come in there and carry that offense, and Brady's going to the NFL. It's just. And you look at Georgia, the stars are aligned in the SEC.
It is.
And, it's up to Georgia to, for one time, don't fumble the ball going across the goal line. And that's what we've seemed to do for 40 years.
The only team that really, I don't want to say scares me, and we will only see them if we meet them in the SEC championship. That Texas A&M team has a chance.
Yeah, they're building something.
Real scary this year.
Yeah,
and they're kind of doing like Georgia's. I was talking about they're under that radar because they're under the LSU, Auburn, Alabama shadow. And we could see two Saban coaches going head to head in the SEC championship. And if both them coaches beat Saban, it might be Saban thinking maybe it's time to hang them up.
I think it's going to happen this year. I really truly think it's going to happen this year.
I think we get them in Tuscaloosa. I feel it's.
Yeah, we've been discussing that. I really think that, if Saban does go down to some disciples, because what else does he have to prove at this point? I mean, he's probably just waiting for someone to knock him off the mountain because he's like, well, as long as I'm on top of the mountain, I'll stay here as long as I need to, so.
Now, in March, I feel that way, but I'm going to tell you, come September, I'm going to get the Munsons. I'm going to get that Larry Munson feeling where I'm going to start telling you every reason we can't beat them in Tuscaloosa. But right now, sitting back thinking, it's the coaching's there. We got the offensive staff in there. We got the quarterback. It ain't about Newman. I don't care how much he runs, but he can move the pocket.
Yeah.
He can keep it. He can make a 2-yard gain instead of a 4-yard sack.
It's going to come down. It's going to come down to that coaching staff in Tuscaloosa against the coaching staff in Athens. It's not about the players anymore because we have just as great as players as Alabama. So it's going to come down to coaching, and who can make the right calls, who can make the right plays at the right time, and win that football game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We didn't have the talent they had. I know we went to overtime with them in the national championship, but we wasn't on their level talent-wise. We were playing over our heads that game. And same thing at 18. DeAndre Walker went down.
Yeah,
that defense started struggling because we didn't have the depth. They can run in guys 2-3 deep.
Yeah.
And we wasn't there. Now we're there.
We're there.
And I think we're there coaching-wise too, if not ahead of them, because they're replacing these coaches every year and calling guys up that ain't in that level.
Yeah.
And I feel, Georgia's that defensive staff especially, but now the offense, bringing in Monken, who's done it for years and years and years. Kirby can go with the defense. Monken can take his offense over here, and then they can meet on game day and put out, the best team in the SEC.
Yeah.
So what kind of scheme was y'all running, compared to what Georgia's doing now with the 3-4 and all the hybrid stuff and edge guys going hand in the dirt back to, back standing up in the backfield and stuff?
And we ran just a basic we ran a 4-3.
Yeah, that's my favorite. That's what I've always loved.
And we didn't first of all, we didn't have the talent to do what a lot of these guys are doing now, that can put their hand in the ground and rush and then drop back and play coverage. The only guy that we had that probably could do that well back then was Randall Godfrey.
Okay.
And, we were just a base defense, cover 2. And that was it. We didn't do a whole bunch, cover 2, cover 1, man every now and then, but we didn't do a whole different lot of other schemes.
Right.
Run this guy in and run this guy off. We didn't have those type of athletes.
What do you think about what they've been doing, what Lannon did last year with the pre-snap shift? Have you noticed that, where they'll shift over and it'll kind of throw the offensive line off? It's something rare that I haven't seen a lot, so I'm really interested in what keys them to do that and things like that.
It's just another edge, just to try to draw the offensive side, just to draw the ball. I mean, we did some things like that when I was at Georgia. So it's just another somebody holler shift.
Right, and the late shift.
Late shift and see if they can get the guy to jump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that kind of chess match that we seem to be playing now. So it's a lot of fun.
Now, we'll go back to when you were playing before we get out of here. I want to ask, because I just wondered this. When was your moment where you're like, holy crap, I'm in the SEC? Was it walking in the stadium? Was it getting hit by somebody? When you had that moment going, okay, this is something I've never dreamed of,
I think for me, my moment came when I got to UGA and Eric Zaire came in my room, and here's a guy that I've watched and said, man, this is Eric Zaire. So when he came in my room, I was in awe.
Yeah.
And it's like, I cannot believe that I'm a teammate of Eric Zaire now. And I'm going to tell you how so real it was. We were in practice one day, and I made the dumbest decision I ever made in my life. I sacked Eric Zaire. And I got jumped on by a whole offensive line. In junior college, you could hit the quarterback.
Right.
I didn't realize that once I got to Georgia, I hit the star of the team.
He said, "Wait, why is his jersey a different color?" Oh well.
That was my so real moment when I got to Georgia. When I knew then I was in big time football.
Right.
Man, well, I sure appreciate you coming. We're going to cut it out today.
Yeah. I
appreciate you coming over here.
Thank you.
Talking ball. And, you're more than welcome anytime you want to.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to ask you like crazy, especially when the girls get back playing softball.
Okay.
And even before that, you're always going to be welcome over here. And, as it goes, we'll get less stories of the 90s and stuff. And I love hearing I love being able to talk about this year with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, next time it'd be fun to have a show where we can just get into modern Georgia football. Hopefully this whole Corona virus thing gets over with, and we can start, having something to talk about as far as.
Oh yeah, I love talking X's and O's. That's why Rick got to cut me off right now. He see the wheels get to rolling, and I might not stop.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely, man.
So on social media, hit Twitter at Nothing Finer Pod, Facebook search Nothing Finer Pod, and of course on YouTube, you're watching right now, hit that subscribe button, like the video, subscribe, leave a comment. We appreciate all that. And sometimes we pick random people to send packages to. Anthony White up in Tennessee, I remember you.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, sometimes we have fun with that. That's all we got this week. Austin, anything?
Just chop wood forever, man.
Frank, you want to say anything going out?
Hey, just keep chopping dogs on top. Dogs always on top.
That's right.
That's it. God bless. Go Dogs.
Got big stuff brewing.
Got big stuff brewing.
Got big stuff brewing. Got big stuff brewing.
Got big stuff brewing.
Big stuff brewing.
Big stuff brewing. Chop wood forever.